Hi everyone, in this video I want to cover absolutely everything hook and hook length related for match fishing. So it would be very easy in this video just to go straight through big list of hooks that I use this hook for that, I use this hook for something else, and can you possibly think of anything more boring? So rather than do that, I think I want to try and help anyone out there watching this try and choose the correct hook for them and the correct hook for the job. Now, of the dozens and dozens, in fact probably even thousands of hooks on the market, I think you can pretty much split them straight down the middle into two different sorts. You have the curved kind of hooks, in that you've got the MWGs, you've got the LWGs, the Super LWGs, the F1 pellet. If you look in the Camazan range, the classic B911s, or the B560s. In the new Preston ranges, we've got the natural N30 hooks. All these hooks, very similar, they all have like a very curved kind of shape to them. The next hook up is the straight hook. I'd put into here the B711s, the Census 3630s, 3410s. In the Guru, we've got the Pole Specials, we've got the F1 Maggot, we've got the Match Maggot, we've got the two Patini Series 18s, the B512s. In Preston, we've got the natural N20 hooks. Conwick again, I've got some B2000s, and I've got some Gamakatsu LS105s. Some of these, they do vary in shape, in that we've got some narrow gauge hooks, we've got some wider gauge hooks. But what they all have in similar is they're all a very kind of blocky kind of shape with a flat point. They can split pretty much every hook out there into these two groups, and I want to go into what you would use each one of them for. Of course, to break the rule, we have these, which are the QM ones and the pellet wagglers. These are specific hooks for hair rigging, and they don't quite fit into either class of hook, and they're designed to do something a little bit different. So let's put them to one side for the minute, and we'll talk about them later. First up, we have the straight point type of hook, you know, the square blocky kind of ones. Now, where these really come into their own is when you're trying to hit bites, whether it's smaller fish, skimmers, smaller roach, stuff like that, you know, the sort of fish that you missed loads and loads of bites on. You'll find with this kind of hook, you will hit far more bites, prick more fish, and hook more fish to start off with. That's because they've got a straight point on them. Like these kind of circular, kind of curved hooks, they will have an in-turn point. You'll find you will miss more bites with these because the point is almost kind of curved in and kind of pointing away from the fish's mouth. So you'll ask yourself, why don't we just use these straight hooks for everything? Why would we use like these curved kind of hooks? Well, these, the plus side of these is once you have hooked a fish on them, the curved shape means you get a far, far stronger hook hold. So generally, we've got these two groups of hooks here. You're going to use these hooks for smaller fish, where you're going to miss lots of bites. You are going to use these for sort of carp fishing, big fish, where hook hold is absolutely crucial, and you don't want them coming off. For this very reason, you'll find that a lot of squat fishing hooks, maggot fishing hooks, all have these straight points. You'll find a lot of your commercial hooks, F1 hooks, carp hooks, they're all got this classic kind of round sort of shape to them. That's because the round shape is there for good hook hold. The straight pointed hooks are there for hitting more bites in the first place. Right, so now let's talk about a little bit of the crossover you have between these types of hooks. Here we have the straight pointed two Patini Series 18, absolutely fantastic bream and skimmer hook. And here we have the swept point curved B560, another real classic bream hook. So which would you use and when? Well, B560, brilliant hook hold. If you're fishing for predominantly bigger bream, you're not likely to miss many bites with them, but once you've hooked them, you want to make sure you're going to get them out. That's when you're going to use the B560 curved kind of shape. Series 18, If you're fishing more for skimmers or hybrids or fish like that where you're going to miss more bites to start off with, that's when you want to fish with a straighter hook. If you go and hook like a great big 5 pound or 6 pound bream or something like that, or even a carp or something, then you're more likely to get it out on one of these. Whereas you can sacrifice that hook hold by using a Series 18, knowing that you are going to hit more bites to start off with. Another crossover point with hooks is river hooks for big fish. So here I have B560s, a round circle kind of shaped hook, and here's the B711, the straighter point hooked. They're very similar in that they're both big, strong hook, great for big fish on rivers, big dirty great barb on them. So where would you use a B711? Where would you use a B560? Well, the B560 is great for bream. You don't tend to miss many bream bites, so once it's got it in its mouth and you've hooked it, you're going to get it out. B711, not quite so great a hook hold, but for harder mouthed fish where they're less likely to throw the hook, such as chub or eels, the B711 is a far superior hook. Also in the fact that you're going to miss less bites off those fish by using a B711 with a straight hook. Now this is particularly apparent when feeder fishing for eels. It's something I've discovered fishing at Evesham. Well, in fact, I cannot even take credit for discovering that. I've kind of found out by accident that that's what other anglers were doing. But either way, if you fished with like a circle kind of shaped hook there for the eels, you just get big wrap rounds on your rod, you'd miss the bite. If you fished with a straight pointed hook, you get a great big wrap round and the fish normally has hooked itself. Now as we move on to storing and tying hook lengths, this is where it can all turn into a little bit of a minefield. It's very, very easy to end up tying every single size, every single pattern, to every strength of line going, and trying to carry the whole lot. It just ends up as a massive confusing mess. So try and simplify things down a little bit. Start off with tying hooks. I'll choose a pattern. So here we are, I've got the Pole Specials by Guru. So this is a hook I really like for roach fishing, and in here I've got the 22s tied up in 06, 08 and 09. I think those three strains, they're going to cover everything. 06 I'll use when it's difficult, 08 I'll use when the fishing's good, 09 pretty much I'll only use when whip fishing, you know, just when you just want something just that little bit more durable that's not going to break. And they're the only formats I have the size 22s tied up in. In 20s I've got them in 06, 08 and 09 exactly the same again. In size 18s there's no point in having the 06s, so I've just got them tied up in 08 and 09, and then the 16s 09 and 010. So in each size I've got myself 2 or maybe 3 different options of line strength, and that's pretty much going to cover most of my fishing. As for length of them, I mostly use this hook 5 inches long, so this hook length box is perfect. It's all tied up here 5 inches long. Now there are situations where you're going to need them tied up longer than that. It's very easy to then have them tied up 8 inches long, 10 inches long, 12 inches long, all that kind of thing. But instead, simplify things a little bit. I've basically got this box which covers all my natural water hooks, but all longer versions of them. They're all tied up in here, all 12 inches long. So a lot of these smaller boxes here, we've got some more roach hooks, I've got some tubertini hooks, I've got all sorts of bits and pieces here. Each one of these is then replicated longer in 12 inches. And the beauty of doing this is if you're fishing a flat float on a river, if you're fishing a bollo, if you're fishing a feeder where you want a short tail on it, the waggler, anything like that, all these hooks, 12 inches long, I'll use them exactly as they are. If I want a hook length 8 inches long, because I'm putting a bit of line on the bottom, or it's particularly deep water and I want a little bit of extra distance between my bottom shot, I can cut these hook lengths down. So these, most of the time, that's the length of hook length I use. That covers most of my pole fishing. If I need anything longer, I can pick them out of these boxes and cut them down. As you can see, I've got a couple more here to cover my carp fishing. You know, I can use them for pellet waggler fishing. On the method feeder I can cut them down, or I can just simply use them on the pole. So I think that way, that cuts down on saving tons and tons of different hook lengths. Moving on after that, we've got feeder fishing. Of course, method feeder fishing, the method feeder hook lengths, I've either got them in these big boxes or in these smaller boxes already cut to the correct length. When I'm talking about natural water feeder fishing, I really like these boxes. I know people really like EVA spools in that they can tie them up, say, 1 metre long, take off the hook length and just cut it down to length. Personally, I really like these boxes, work on the same principle, and in each one of these, each pattern that I use, I've got them tied up 50 centimetres, 75 centimetres and 1 metre long. And that is all hook lengths sorted and organised to cover pretty much all of my fishing. Now, as promised, these are the hooks that break the rule. These are the hooks specifically designed for hair rigging. Now, what you've got to think about is most of the hooks that we use, we are actually striking at bites. So it is us physically pulling the hook sharply through the water in order to try and prick the fish. The way these are very different in that it's actually the fish coming down, taking the bait and moving away with the bait and then hooking itself. So if you look at it this way, most pole fishing hooks, they're designed to catch the fish when they're sharply tugged at out of the fish's mouth. Whereas these, they're almost meant to drag their way home and catch in the fish's mouth under the fish's own movement rather than us specifically striking. You can learn an awful lot by looking at carp fishing videos. It's all about making sure that that hook point digs into that fish. And that's why carp anglers, they have no end of really strange and wonderful kind of hair rigs. It's all about making the bait really difficult for the carp to get rid of once it's sucked it in, and once it is in its mouth, making sure that the hook point digs in as the fish moves away or spits the bait out. And one real key way of doing it, which a lot of match anglers do, but I don't think they fully understand, is to put a little piece of silicone on to the shank of the hook. And everyone says, oh yeah, they do that, you know, just to keep the hair aligned and to keep it straight. Whereas carp anglers, they think of it a different way round. What you're doing is you're making the hair come off the hook a little bit further round towards the point of the hook. Now that's changing the centre of the gravity of the hook. Rather than the bait being off the back of it and the hook point pointing up, it's going to try and turn the hook over and make the hook be pointing downwards. Now this is important when a carp is sucked in a bait and then it's lifting up. It's then putting the hook point in the bottom of its mouth where it's going to catch. If the centre of gravity is off the back of the hook point is going to be pointing upwards. As the fish then lifts the bait, the hook's then going to be facing the wrong way. And that's the whole idea of that little piece of silicone. So as match anglers, I think we should be placing, well, when feeder fishing anyway, pellet wagglers completely different. It's other way round, remember, it's the fish coming up for the bait. But for feeder fishing anyway, we should be having that silicone a little bit further round to that hook point and making sure that that hook is facing downwards as the fish moves away, and so it hooks into them better. Carp anglers will regularly test their hair rigs to see how good they are at self-hooking. One of the tests they'll use is what they call the drag test. That's simply where they'll have a baited hook on the palm of their hand and they'll slowly drag the line across the palm of their hand. And what they're looking for is the hook to turn around and catch in their hand. The better it catches in their hand as they drag it, the better the self-hooking properties. You can try this method yourself with your own hook lengths. You can try with the silicone at the back of the hook, and you can try with the silicone further round towards the hook point. And at the position where it's sticking in your hand more times than the hook's falling off it, then you know you've got it dead right. Now, thanks very much for watching. I know it's been a long time since my last video, but unfortunately it's getting into summer, things are hotting up. If you have enjoyed the video, then please make sure you like the video and subscribe, and that will only encourage me to do some more in the future. Thanks very much.